Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for August. Because we're in August now. The summer is here. It's been a hot one. It's been sticky. It's been uncomfortable. I would be rather kind of awake at night than be awake during the day. And even if I was awake at night, say if I was an owl, I'd probably be like a grumpy old owl anyway. And with that in mind, we have somebody who's moved from being a jade owl to being a grumpy owl. I'm joined again by Jeremy Falger, who successfully launched his Kickstarter campaign for his card game Untamed, and he's back on to give us a little catch up on that. So first of all, how are you doing? Are you well?
Yeah. Very well. We had a crazy, successful campaign that sort of exceeded everything I ever dreamt of. So yeah, I'm doing pretty well, and thank you for having me again.
No,
show.
No, it's good to have you back on, because we spoke a long time ago. In fact, I think it was like September last year.
Yeah, I think so.
When I was fawning over the art that you had for Untamed. So you went to Kickstarter, you funded, and then some. I think you ended up with about, was it $54,000 or something?
Yeah, something like, $54K, yeah.
But the game itself was only kind of, the pledge levels were really low. It was only like $16 a time.
Yeah, we wanted to offer really competitive and appealing price to people. Maybe have a sort of a change of pace with all those huge miniature games going on. But apparently it caught on. Thankfully.
How did you feel when you hit the kind of the funding goal and the game started to really kind of gain some traction, and there just seemed to be backers coming in one after another? Was it kind of like, it must have been extremely exciting at the time, and obviously maybe a little bit kind of overwhelming as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I was. It was a crazy experience. It was kind of surreal. Like we had been working on it for such a long time, and then to actually see all these people be so enthusiastic about your product, right? Which up until then basically only existed in our minds. It's so crazy, and I still can't really believe that we did it. All my friends were like, "Oh my God, Jeremy!" I was like, "Ah!" And I was like, "I don't know what's going on." It was super. It was super cool. Something unforgettable for sure.
How quickly did you fund at the time? Was it in within the first couple of days, or was it in the first couple of hours, or how long did it take?
2.5 hours. Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Because you must have just seen the kind of bing, 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 bing as the kind of the pledges came in, as you get the notifications coming in as well. It must have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was like, I was afraid to look at my phone because there were so many coming in. I thought something had broken or something. I don't know. It was incredible to see this support. of course, there were some friends and family who were really enthusiastic, but there were also people from Australia, and I don't know anybody in Australia, so it was super. It was incredible.
Because you ended up with like about well over 400 kind of comments on the kind of the campaign, and there seemed to be like a really kind of active kind of community, kind of all the way kind of through. Did you find that you were kind of starting to get people who were just there to support you, who were wanting to offer kind of help in terms of kind of play testing and looking at the rules and helping with other things?
Yeah. We had lots of people just offer their help, and they were so enthusiastic and pumped about the game that they wanted to help us out with everything, which is, again, so humbling. You're just a bunch of guys putting out a card game, and then all of a sudden you have all these people wanting to help you and support you, and they're also posting all these crazy things on Reddit, because we had like our stretch goal system was a little bit different. It was more of like more community driven, I think, a little bit, in that we also wanted some funny things. Just like, post some really badly drawn cats on Reddit or stuff like that. And people were really doing that, which was really cool, we're really happy that people reacted so well to it.
I mean, one of the wonderful things about the game, one of the things that kind of first struck me was the kind of the quality of the art. I mean, it really kind of was head and shoulders. I mean, people were obviously pledging because they loved the kind of the art style and the way it looked and everything like that. Did you, when you started to hit kind of like stretch goals, did you then have to kind of start considering kind of the additional animals you were going to kind of add in and things like that as well?
Well, I mean, like from the get-go, we decided not to do any additional factions. So not add any new animals. We had a few content stretch goals prepared, but it was more like working with the content that we already had, adding some more game modes, adding sort of like an overpowered mode, which was the Mythic expansion. So, sort of like a silly addition to the game, just for fun. Because like the artwork, we're obviously super happy with the artwork, but it just takes a lot of time. And we want to deliver the game on time. Yeah. I've seen other projects sort of get stuck in, let's just add a whole bunch of stuff, and it takes another year for them to actually deliver the game, because they have they have to commission new artwork, and good artwork takes time and stuff you don't want to. So we commissioned one extra piece during the campaign, which was the final content stretch goal. And we had like an artist on standby for that. Thank you, Andrew. You did an amazing job.
Thank you, Andrew.
Andrew Zoman, he worked super hard throughout the campaign to get us like get us everything on time. But yeah, we decided, even though a lot of people wanted it, and we ideally we would have also wanted it, but like just timeline wise, I don't think it was a very good idea to promise that as well.
Yeah, I've seen campaigns kind of suffer because the I guess the need to kind of add, to feel that you're adding value, they end up going down the line and saying, oh look, we can produce 3 more characters or 10 more characters, and then they realise they've got to get the art sorted out, they've got to get the time on it getting developed, they've got to balance all the gameplay. Right. And I've seen games that you were pretty much ready to go, kind of all of a sudden kind of add on like 6 months to the actual kind of completion time, which has never been kind of amazing. In terms of the kind of like delivery, where are you in terms of kind of like the kind of getting the product product kind of fulfilled to the customers in terms of the design? What's your kind of your timetable? Is it still you still quite at the beginning of things? Or you because it's a card game, is it quite easy to kind of get it kind of fulfilled and out to the customers?
Well, we're in the middle of pre-production now, so we're getting in factory samples and like white samples, right, of the box, tweaking some stuff where necessary. But I think we're moving ahead pretty much on schedule because, like we didn't do all that extra content. We have ideas for extra factions, of course, but we just didn't do that. So I think we're pretty much on schedule. We're printing in China, so obviously there might be delays with shipping or assembly, stuff like that. But at the moment,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots of them. I think we're doing okay.
Cool. Have you? With this being successful, has this made you think about kind of expansions and things like that, about where you're going to go with the game?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. I think we have several things planned. We can't really reveal all that much, but we would love to do an expansion for the game, add a few more factions to it. And maybe also expand the IP into other games, other products. 'Cause people really seem to like the vibe that we created. People are asking for like lore, which we've been working on, but we're not really ready to share that yet. But it's definitely something we're thinking about and would love to push on forward with in the future.
Are you thinking about kind of like, are you now thinking about the minis game? I mean, with you have, if we look at it, let's face it, you did have, if we scroll, let's do this in real time. You had 1,700 people kind of back you.
Yeah.
So does that not give you the confidence to say, okay, well, maybe the next thing we can do is we can do a little bit of a skirmish game here, or we can do some kind of resource management game, or maybe there's a worker placement game and you can actually this time promise like the kind of the little miniatures kind of here, there and everywhere instead. Have you thought about kind of doing that then?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I would be lying if I hadn't thought about the Untamed miniature game and have a whole bunch of little grumpy owls and foxes and rabbits. I would be lying if I said we weren't. Nothing to announce, but I've been thinking about it for sure. I think it would be really fun to do something like that. I'm open for that kind of thing.
Has it given you a little bit of a kind of more breathing space and leeway in terms of what you're doing on a kind of a day-to-day basis as well? Or is this actually taken away from the job? Because when people maybe don't remember, but last time we spoke, you were kind of involved in a lot of gamification stuff and businesses and stuff like that as well. And that was one of the things that you were kind of doing as one of your, what was part of what you were doing as kind of like a main job. Has the Kickstarter been like a double-edged sword? Have you ended up having to spend an awful lot more time kind of sorting that out? And has that had an effect on kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Leading up to the Kickstarter, for sure. Untamed was like the main show. After the Kickstarter has ended, I think we're sort of back to where we were, which is not a bad thing necessarily. I think it also keeps you fresh a little bit if you're working on like different projects with different kind of clients. I think in the long term, things might shift in one direction or another. At the moment, it's still it's pretty evenly split at the moment. And the gamification things has brought some new interesting challenges as well. So,
are you finding there's a steady source of work coming from the gamification stuff? Is it still something that you need to actively be kind of pitching and persuading people to persuade the concept, or are people more open as board games get more and more popular?
I think everybody's getting more open to it. Also, like, I think in general, society is opening up to games more. As you know, people my age are now, you know, in charge of things, and they like games. So it's more, it's more. I think it's more acceptable, which makes our work on that end a little bit easier. You know, people willing to try new things when it comes to training their staff or training students, teaching them certain things. And you know, I think there's a spot for it. I don't think it fixes, you know, like, I don't think games can teach you everything, but I think certain specific parts you can add value with games that way, and we try to like highlight those parts, which you can do that.
Have you found that is it a certain type of business that takes you up on the gamification type of thing? Is it a certain sector of business that you've ended up kind of working with, like, say, the education side of things, or, you know, is it IT, you know, is there a particular sector that you seem to be kind of growing in with regards to that side of the business?
At the moment, we're doing some stuff in the healthcare side of things. Right. So we're pretty proud of this educational game that we did for a few universities here in Holland. With regards to public health and how to deal with an outbreak, like a flu epidemic. But we're also doing some other things in that field. So at the moment, we've been focused on that a lot. But I still believe that there's other sectors that could also benefit, or you know, might be interested in trying this kind of approach. So I don't think we want to limit ourselves to just the healthcare, even though that's very interesting. A very interesting sector.
Have you got like an ideal client or an ideal sector you'd like to work in? I mean, would you like to be rolling into the kind of the government defence contracts or something like that, or is there a, you know?
I actually used to do some work for a government organization for defense departments and stuff, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but I signed a piece of paper. It was very cool. It was very fun. Actually, like, historically, the military is like the most open to these kind of things. You know, like back in like when Prussian generals were in charge of stuff, they did I think they did the first like kind of war game simulation. Yeah. So, defense is super cool. I think ideal client just gives us a lot of room to also be creative. I mean, you still want to like get those learning goals woven into the whole mechanics, but they would give us a little bit more freedom in other areas, maybe less time constraints, or more open to maybe a little bit closer to the board games that you see in shops, maybe in terms of artwork. I think that would be very cool if there's a budget for that. You know, I understand it's a big chunk of money, but I think that could be really cool.
And it's usually the functionality, isn't it? I mean, they're not going to be particularly happy if you're kind of going over the costings of the project and saying, right, well, to develop this, it's going to be, you know, $5 5 to 10,000 euros, but to get the artwork in, we're going to need another 3,000 euros on top of that. And they're just like, you're not getting that money.
Yeah.
There's no chance you're going to get that money at all. Have you had a chance to be still been playing anything? I mean, obviously you've had the kind of the Kickstarter that you've had to deal with. You've had to, you've obviously got the ongoing kind of business that's going with. As I say, you've moved from being a jade owl to a grumpy owl.
Sure, yeah.
Is that because you got less sleep while you were doing the Kickstarter, and you just shouted and folks said, Jeremy, you're just not as nice and serene and green as you used to be. You're just a little bit shouty. And you went, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now go away while I change my company name. I mean, was that?
Oh yeah, I didn't sleep a lot for sure during the Kickstarter. I think none of us did. Just, going over all these comments from people in your mind, and I need to answer them right away. Even though they're in a completely different time zone, I have to answer them right away.
I did notice that you kind of, I don't think anybody was able to, looking at the comments here, it is kind of like you're replying to every single person pretty much as soon as they left a comment. So I don't think there was, because usually on Kickstarters, it's usually a case there's 3 or 4 people that will comment on something, and then what will happen is that you'll end up kind of getting folk like yourself the creator will catch up and they'll do the replies then. But on this, you just seem to be kind of like somebody asks a question, bang, you're straight in there with a reply. You didn't kind of let the pixels kind of dry on the screen before you were kind of answering the questions, which was quite kind of interesting. With it being such a success, was there pressure for you to kind of do multiple translations of the game itself, or did it need a lot of translations? Because there seems to be a lot of iconography in there. There doesn't seem to be, from what I can see, a massive amount. There's a little bit of flavour text here and a bit of effect, but did you then have to look at kind of translations for the game as you kind of gathered pace, as you were hitting kind of like your 15,000 target, your 25,000 target? You went, people are going to be wanting this in French.
Oh yeah, they definitely wanted it in French. Hopefully still want it in French. We had loads of requests also, in personal messages and stuff like that, and direct messages. We would love to do that. I do think the game is pretty language dependent. The effects are... I don't think we could do the effects with iconography. We thought about it, but it was going to be a mess. So, we would love to localize it, but also for our own sanity's sake. We're still a really tiny little company, right? So, just in order to get the game out there and get some experience with actually, shipping and logistics and all that, we decided to just keep it in English for now, keep it a bit manageable. Of course, if people are interested, if partners are interested in doing a local version in Italian or French or Polish or whatever, we're very interested in that. But just within the scope of the campaign, it was very tempting to do that, but just to keep things manageable and to hopefully deliver the game on time, we declined that for the during the Kickstarter.
In some ways, it's understandable. It's different. I think there's a massive difference if you were just having to translate the rule book,
right.
And if the tokens and everything like that, if you got away with a lot of the tokens, and if it was standees, and if it was maybe a slightly different game, but if you're looking at kind of action points on the cards, then, and the thing with translations is, I see it all the time is that somebody will put a translation in and it will be taken slightly the wrong way. It won't be 100% well translated. And then what will happen is you get somebody complaining kind of like 6 months down the line to say, well, the translations, they weren't that amazing. Here's my set of translations that you should be using instead. So you kind of get that, thing instead, which is, I guess it's just kind of one of those things. As it's going back, have you had a chance to play anything? I mean, have you managed to get anything to the table at all?
I guess I'm not really sure. I'm looking at my shelf right now, and I don't really remember pulling out all that many games. I played Battle for Rokugan a few times, which is like this really cool area control game. By Fantasy Flight, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it, like the whole sort of blind simultaneous action selection and revealing the bluffing and stuff. I love that stuff. So I was really pumped about that. I must have played other stuff. I don't remember. Played some Conducera, which is always good.
Yeah.
Super tense. I really like these tense games, where you never feel safe, and I think Battle for Rokugan has that, and Conducera has that. I played High Society, like the new edition.
Oh yes,
that's a super intense little game. That was crazy.
I played that at Aircon with Dan Hughes, and you're right, because at the beginning you're kind of like, okay, I'm not going to play this. And then I'm going to play this, and then if I play this, can you give me the change? And it's like, no, you don't. You don't get the change. You've played that card down. So I obviously lost, and I lost extremely well because I think I'd spent pretty much all of my money, so I automatically kind of lost. But the artwork on the cards was absolutely
super good,
stunning. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Oh, and this other super tense game that just popped into my head was the Estates. I don't know if you had a chance to try that. I just played one round.
I've heard that, yeah.
That was also gut-wrenchingly intense. That was really good. That was really good.
Is there anything you kind of got your eye on at the moment that you're wanting to kind of get your hands on?
Not really, to be honest. I don't. No, I don't think so. I mean, but there's so much stuff. I mean, so much stuff has come out the past few years that I still have a bunch of catching up to do, I think. I would still like to play Evolution. That seems like a game that tickles my fancy.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about that. I heard it's kind of pretty good fun and pretty enjoyable, but I'm kind of in the process of managing my collection a little bit more vigorously and kind of looking at games and kind of going, I don't think I'm going to play that. I'm just going to kind of get it out the door, and just try to get everything that I have got to the table at least a couple of times to help me decide if I want to kind of keep it, which is just kind of one of those things. Where's next for the company? I mean, you've got to get the Kickstarter obviously out the way, and kind of fulfilled. Have you already got the next game planned? Or have you had to reassess that based on the success of Untamed? Because I don't think people go into kind of like their first kind of project going, I've kind of all of a sudden collected 1,700 backers and over $50,000. I don't think people kind of go into their first campaign expecting that to kind of happen. So have you had to reassess kind of the direction that you're going to be going in for the company then?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously didn't expect this success, so we've been talking internally what we want to do. And we have some ideas. So, like an Untamed expansion is pretty high up on that list. And then expanding the universe in whichever way possible. But there aren't any concrete plans for that, except that we would like to do that. I think we're still, after the Kickstarter, we had like a short little tiny holiday break type thing. And then we went straight back into pre-production. So, and some other projects that, in the serious gaming field that came along. So we're still sort of assessing what we want to do, and what our next step will be in the Kickstarter realm. But I think it's important to also, actually deliver the game first before we start planning a super elaborate miniature game with 150 minis in a box that, can't get shrink wrapped because there's so much stuff in it. So, I think it's also important to keep supporting the product that you have, right? Like some bigger publishers, they push out so much new stuff that it's very overwhelming. And then
I'm seeing at the moment kind of very, very exciting games with a lot of noise. And then they're just like kind of disappearing.
Right.
And then it's only after a while that kind of people start to pick them up again and say, actually, this is a good game. And it's kind of like worthwhile. It's kind of like worthwhile hanging on to. It's kind of like worthwhile getting. And I'm seeing kind of that. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of like big explosions and people going, hey, look at this. And everybody gets really, really excited. And then it's not even a case that it dies down. It just seems to fall off a kind of a cliff for a lot of things, which is
for sure. I agree. And I think that's a shame, right? Because a lot of work went into all those games. And then a month later, they're totally evaporated, it seems like. So I think one of our goals is also to turn the current game into a sustainable sort of, well, evergreen is a big word, but I think that would be the goal, to make it a sort of a mainstay in people's minds, which I think might not be possible if you completely rush into the next big project, right? So,
but I've seen that happen as businesses trying to maintain a kind of a business strategy and a business plan that they go from one Kickstarter to the next, fulfilling it, launching their next campaign as a kind of is almost like as a way of kind of continually funding kind of what they're doing. I mean, the project actually only funded at the beginning of the month. So you had to go obviously through this 2-week waiting period before you got the money. Was there any point where you went, where's the money? When's it coming in?
Yeah, of course. But then on the other hand, we were still so sort of like stunned that we actually hit this goal that it was like, is it actually coming? I wouldn't be surprised if it was all just a dream, So,
did you take a screenshot of your bank account when the money hit?
I'm pretty sure we did. Just to remember what it actually, that we had that amount on our bank account, because we're spending most of it on printing and stuff. So it was only there for a few moments.
I know. And then you've got to press a button and your kind of tears are streaming out your eyes while you can send it through, and there's okay, there's your money, and you can kind of take it. I know that's happened to a lot of people, that they've kind of, this is the first time in their life that they've actually had that amount of money in their bank account. They're just sitting there going, wow, this is really tempting.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
The Ferrari,
No. Let's face it, for that kind of money, you can probably get an apartment. So, realistically, you can't really get kind of a good car for 50,000 nowadays.
Sure.
But you've got that kind of thing. Is there anything you would have done differently in terms of the marketing side of things? Because I don't remember there being a massive amount of noise about the game when you were doing the campaign. I seem to remember that it was one of these ones that just seemed to just grow through kind of word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had a few people kind of write previews and do some videos and stuff like that for you as well, but there wasn't a massive amount. So was there anything you would do differently that you've learned that you would do differently for the next campaign? Kind of going forward.
Yeah, start earlier. I think that's the basis of it. It was time constraints, money constraints. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Marketing is expensive. Prepare better. But I think it might, as a first-time creator, I think it's also just harder to get more coverage. I'm not sure how other people do it. They might be like marketing geniuses or something, but I
think they start like months in advance.
Right.
I mean, I get kind of a lot of emails on a regular basis every week now to say, hi, we've just launched our campaign and we're looking for kind of coverage. And we record we arranged this, like a month and a half ago or something like that?
Yeah.
6 weeks ago or something like that. And you just don't have the space, the time, or the bandwidth to just like drop everything and have somebody come on the show to kind of help it.
Right.
So I guess kind of reaching out as kind of like as quickly as possible would be kind of helpful. Have you thought about distribution side of things? Are you looking at considering that? Are you looking at retail? Are you looking at anything along those lines at all, Jeremy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's part of our idea of making Untamed not fall off the edge of the earth after 2 weeks is by getting it into retailers' hands and getting it into distributors' hands. So we're very interested in pursuing that. And hopefully that'll pan out for us. We're setting up meetings for Spiel in Essen, and hopefully, I think it's good to also like show your product face to face, and see people's reactions to it face to face. But yeah, it's definitely on our minds, and it's something we're focusing on going forward.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent. If people are wanting to keep an eye on yourselves, because you've got late pledges as well.
Yes.
I'm going to drop that in here, that if you want to jump in for a late pledge, it's €16, isn't it, roughly?
Yeah, and shipping.
And shipping on top of that. So it's pretty much... Well, at the moment, because of the way the British pound is and because our country is a small disaster, that is pretty much kind of like £16, directly. It's almost like it's a one-on-one kind of conversion rate at the moment. Not saying anyway, but thanks very much. But if people are interested in kind of checking out the rest of your stuff, what's going to be happening with Untamed and things like that, where can we kind of find you on the internet?
So at the moment we're redoing our website to be a bit more informative and show a little bit more content. So grumpyowlgames.com will be the best website on the internet soon, but not yet.
It's not as good as our one. Our social media accounts, particularly the Instagram and the Facebook page, are pretty active. We also have a Discord channel, which saw uptick in people joining, obviously during the campaign. Cool. I'm a bit guilty of not being on there the last few days.
But there's also so much stuff to do. But I really like to talk to everybody on Discord. So that's a possibility. I think those are the usual suspects.
Excellent. Well, we will take those links and put them in the show notes so that we've got notes to show, as always. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, then go to the internet webs, search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in all of these worn out places, worn out faces. If you go to Twitter, you'll find us there. If you go to Facebook, you'll find us there. If you go to Instagram, you'll find us there. If you just search for We're Not Wizards, you can find us on our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com, and you can find us on our website, which is again is we'renotwizards.com, where you can find all the episodes. If you want to find the episodes through a different way, you can go to any podcast catcher that all of them, regardless of whether or not they've got the word pod and the word podcast in them, because obviously I didn't do enough research, and there's tons of them without the word pod or the word podcast in them. There's also the wonderful, fantastic Apple podcasts, which you can drop us a subscription, or you can drop us a rating, or you can drop us a review. Maybe you can, I don't know. They're kind of changing the system and recategorising them. We'll just need to see if we can continue on with this joke that we've been running with since the very, very beginning, which is quite simply, if you do like what you've listened to, tell somebody else about it. But the other thing is, if you go into Apple Podcasts, drop us a subscription, but drop us a rating, even drop us a review. If you are going to be giving us a rating or review, don't give us 10 stars, because it makes us big-headed, but at the same time, don't give us 1 star, because it makes us cry. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average, and we're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average tonight is rather wonderful, rather fantastic. The fully funded, fully armed, and he shouldn't actually be grumpy, to be perfectly honest. He should be happy, but it's Jeremy Falger of Grumpy Owl Games. Thank you very, very much for coming on, sir.
Thank you for having me once again, Richard.
And I can only wish you the best of luck. And as I say, if you are interested in getting yourself some Untamed, you can get the late pledge, and we'll put the links so you can get the late pledge. Could be fantastic. There's only a couple of things left to do. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Jeremy?
We're not.
Yay! And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Jeremy. Say goodbye, Jeremy.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful, and don't get something that kind of like will come when you shout at it or sits when you tell it to sit. You don't want something that's kind of just boring and dull and does what you want it to do. You want something a bit wild. You want something a bit untamed. And until the next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.